Ladies and gentlemen, there's something powerful in silence, but there's also something dangerous. Silence can speak volumes when it's deliberate, but it can also cause pain when it's unintended. Today, I want to talk about how staying silent, especially in relationships, can create a kind of suffering that grows deeper with every passing moment. Many of us have been in situations where we choose to keep quiet, either because we don't want to rock the boat, or because we're waiting for the perfect moment to express what's on our minds. We think, if I say something now, I might hurt them, or maybe it's better to just leave it alone. But what if, in your silence, you're actually causing more harm than you realize? Imagine someone close to you, someone who cares about you deeply. Every day they look for signs, for words, for a clue as to how you're feeling. They try to understand your needs, but all they hear is silence. The longer you withhold your thoughts, your feelings, your truth, the more they suffer in that uncertainty. They might start to question themselves, wondering if they've done something wrong, if they're good enough, or if they even matter to you. Silence, though often seen as a neutral or safe option, can be one of the most powerful and damaging forces in relationships. When we choose silence, especially in moments where communication is needed, we may think we are avoiding conflict or protecting the other person from hurt. But in reality, silence can create a deep sense of pain and uncertainty, sometimes even more than harsh words would. In relationships, silence doesn't just mean the absence of noise or words. It's the absence of understanding, clarity, and emotional connection. When one person chooses not to express their feelings, concerns, or thoughts, it leaves the other person in a state of guessing. They're left trying to piece together what you might be thinking, how you might be feeling, and what they might have done wrong, if anything at all. This uncertainty can spiral into doubt. The other person might start to question the foundation of the relationship. They may wonder if they've failed you in some way, or if they're not enough for you. In the absence of clear communication, people often fill the gaps with worst case scenario. They may assume that your silence means disinterest, dissatisfaction, or even rejection. But the damage of silence goes beyond just uncertainty. It creates an emotional distance between people. Relationships thrive on connection, on feeling understood, seen, and valued. When silence becomes a habit, that connection weakens. The person who feels left out in the silence may start to feel emotionally isolated, even when they are physically close to you. It's a subtle but powerful form of neglect, and over time, that emotional distance can become a chasm that's difficult to bridge. Furthermore, silence can lead to resentment. The longer you stay silent, the more the other person might feel like their feelings or concerns don't matter to you. They may start to feel like they're carrying the emotional weight of the relationship on their own, always trying to figure out how to make things work without knowing what's really going on in your mind. This imbalance can create frustration and a sense of unfairness, which builds resentment over time. It's important to understand that silence often isn't a solution, it's a delay of the inevitable. The issues that are avoided by silence don't disappear, they accumulate. Unspoken frustrations, unmet needs, and unresolved conflicts build up beneath the surface, waiting to explode. And when they finally do, the damage is often far greater than if the issues had been addressed earlier through honest conversation. Ultimately, silence, while it may feel like a way to keep the peace, can actually create more pain than confrontation. It leaves people feeling uncertain, disconnected, and emotionally abandoned. Speaking up though difficult, is the key to preventing the emotional suffering that silence can cause. It allows for clarity, resolution, and the chance to rebuild trust and connection in the relationship. At the core of every relationship is the need for connection. We all crave validation, understanding, and a sense of security with the people we care about. Communication is the bridge that allows us to feel connected. When that bridge is broken by silence, it can leave the other person feeling lost and disconnected. Silence often creates a void, and human nature is to fill that void with assumptions. In relationships, those assumptions are rarely positive. If one partner suddenly becomes quiet or stops expressing themselves, the other partner might begin to think, is something wrong? Or did I do something to upset them? This self-questioning can lead to feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, and self-doubt, all of which take an emotional toll on the relationship. Over time, these doubts can snowball. The more silence there is, the more likely the other person will start to believe that they're being pushed away. They might interpret your silence as a lack of care, love, or investment in the relationship. And as they start to feel this perceived distance, it can trigger emotional defenses like withdrawal or even anger. For example, consider a situation where a partner stays silent about their feelings, whether it's about small frustrations or larger concerns. The other partner may not know what's going on internally, so they might begin to think that the relationship is falling apart. Even if that's not the case, without open dialogue, they may assume that the silence means something much worse, like that their partner is losing interest, falling out of love, or no longer wants to be in the relationship. These thoughts can be incredibly damaging and create emotional walls that weren't there before. This emotional damage can also lead to unhealthy patterns of behavior. The partner on the receiving end of the silence may become overly anxious, constantly seeking. Communication, even when difficult, is the lifeblood of any healthy relationship. It is the tool that allows us to connect with others, understand their thoughts and feelings, and express our own in a way that fosters trust and emotional intimacy. While it can be tempting to avoid tough conversations for fear of conflict, discomfort, or vulnerability, doing so often leads to far more harm than good. Difficult communication, though challenging in the moment, is essential for maintaining clarity, strengthening connection, and reducing emotional strain in the long run. At the heart of communication is the need for clarity. When people in relationships don't express their thoughts, feelings, or concerns, they create space for misunderstandings to take root. Assumptions take the place of direct conversation, and those assumptions are often wrong. For example, if one partner is upset about something but chooses not to address it, the other partner may have no idea what's wrong. They might think everything is fine, or worse, they may assume the problem is much bigger than it is. Without clear communication, both partners end up operating in the dark, which only increases confusion and frustration. Clarity through communication also means resolving issues before they escalate. Small problems left unspoken have a tendency to grow. A minor disagreement or frustration that could have been addressed with a simple conversation can fester and evolve into a much larger conflict. The emotional weight of unspoken issues builds up over time, creating tension and distance between partners. By addressing things openly, even when it's uncomfortable, you prevent misunderstandings from turning into deep-seated resentment. But communication isn't just about solving problems, it's about building connection. Every conversation, whether it's easy or difficult, offers an opportunity for people to understand each other on a deeper level. When you express your feelings, you give your partner a window into your inner world. They can see what's important to you, what bothers you, and what makes you happy. This emotional transparency fosters intimacy because it shows that you trust the other person with your vulnerable thoughts and emotions. In turn, they can reciprocate by sharing their own feelings, creating a space where both partners feel seen, heard, and valued. One of the greatest benefits of communication is that it reduces emotional strain. When people hold back their feelings, it takes an emotional toll. You may feel like you're walking on eggshells, constantly worrying about how to bring something up or whether your partner will react poorly. This creates a state of emotional tension that's draining for both parties. On the other hand, when difficult conversations are approached with honesty and care, it releases that built-up pressure. Even if the conversation is tough, the relief that comes from being open and addressing issues directly far outweighs the temporary discomfort. Difficult conversations also provide an opportunity for growth. When couples face challenges together and communicate openly, they strengthen their ability to navigate future conflicts. They learn each other's communication styles, develop better ways to express themselves, and build trust that they can work through problems as a team. This growth is what allows relationships to evolve and become more resilient over time. Moreover, communication helps partners to set expectations and boundaries clearly. These are the foundations of any lasting relationship. By talking about needs, desires, and limits openly, you ensure that both parties are on the same page. Without this clarity, unmet expectations or crossed boundaries can lead to feelings of betrayal or frustration, which damage the relationship. Open dialogue, even on tough subjects, ensures that everyone knows where they stand, which reduces the risk of conflict arising from miscommunication. In the end, difficult conversations are often the ones that matter most. They're the conversations that lead to breakthroughs in understanding, that clear up misunderstandings, and that foster deeper connection. Without them, relationships stagnate in a place of surface level interaction where true intimacy and understanding are never fully realized. So while it may be tempting to avoid hard conversations to keep the peace in the short term, doing so only creates a false sense of harmony. True peace in a relationship comes from knowing that you can be honest, that you will be heard, and that both partners are committed to working through challenges together. Communication, even when it feels difficult, is the key to maintaining that peace and strengthening the bond between two people. It reduces emotional strain, builds connection, and ensures clarity, laying the foundation for a lasting, fulfilling relationship. Staying silent in relationships can feel like a protective measure, but it often has the opposite effect. Silence, especially when there are issues or emotions that need to be addressed, doesn't shield anyone from harm. Instead, it tends to deepen misunderstandings, create confusion, and ultimately lead to unnecessary conflict. It's a paradox. What may seem like a way to avoid problems actually makes them worse in the long run. When you choose to stay silent, especially during moments where open communication is needed, you are withholding valuable information from the other person. This could be anything from how you feel about a situation, what you need in the relationship, or what concerns or fears you may have. By keeping these thoughts and emotions to yourself, you leave the other person in a state of uncertainty. They may have no idea that something is bothering you or that an issue even exists, and as a result, they can't do anything to address it or change their behavior. Silence creates a breeding ground for misunderstandings. People in relationships often misinterpret silence in ways that can be damaging. If you don't express your frustrations, your partner might assume that everything is fine. Worse, they might interpret your silence as emotional withdrawal or disinterest. They may begin to believe that you no longer care or that you're purposely keeping your distance. This can lead to them feeling insecure, hurt, or even rejected. When someone is left to fill in the blanks on their own, they often imagine the worst, and that creates tension between both parties. The longer the silence goes on, the more these misunderstandings grow. Even small issues, when left unspoken, can turn into larger problems. For example, if you're bothered by something your partner does but choose not to say anything, you might think you're avoiding conflict by staying silent. But over time, that unaddressed frustration can build. It can fester inside you, leading to resentment. Your partner, unaware of your feelings, will continue their behavior, not knowing it's affecting you. Eventually, the resentment reaches a breaking point, and what could have been a small, manageable issue turns into a much larger conflict. Moreover, silence often sends mixed signals. On one hand, you may think you're keeping the peace, but on the other, your partner is left confused by your lack of communication. They might wonder if something is wrong, if they've done something to upset you, or if there's an underlying problem that they're unaware of. This uncertainty creates anxiety and emotional strain, and it can drive a wedge between people who were once close. The emotional distance caused by silence can be far more damaging than an argument or difficult conversation would have been. What makes silence particularly dangerous is that it doesn't allow for resolution. Problems don't disappear because you don't talk about them. In fact, they often become worse. By avoiding communication, you miss the opportunity to work through issues, find solutions, and strengthen the relationship. Difficult conversations, while uncomfortable, provide a pathway to understanding and growth. Without them, the relationship remains stagnant, with unresolved issues bubbling beneath the surface. In contrast, open communication, even when it's hard, prevents misunderstandings and conflict from escalating. When you speak up about how you're feeling or what's on your mind, you give the other person the chance to understand your perspective. They can respond, explain their side, and together you can find common ground. It's through these conversations that relationships grow stronger, because both partners are able to express themselves openly and work through challenges together. It's also important to remember that staying silent doesn't just affect the other person, it affects you too. When you don't speak up, you're carrying the weight of unexpressed emotions. Whether it's frustration, hurt, or concern, keeping it bottled up creates internal tension. You may find yourself feeling more stressed, anxious, or resentful because you're not addressing the issues that are bothering you. Over time, this can take a toll on your emotional well-being and even your physical health. Additionally, silence in the face of conflict often means that the root causes of issues are never addressed. Rather than preventing conflict, silence prolongs it. The unresolved emotions and unmet needs continue to exist, and they can resurface in other areas of the relationship. For instance, you may find yourself becoming irritable or distant for reasons you can't fully explain, or small disagreements may quickly escalate because of the built-up tension from unspoken issues. In reality, silence rarely brings about peace or protection. It builds walls. These walls keep both partners from truly understanding each other, from resolving their issues, and from creating a deeper bond. By choosing silence, you might think you're preventing hurt feelings or avoiding drama, but you're actually creating a situation where miscommunication and emotional distance are more likely to thrive. To break this cycle, it's essential to recognize that open and honest communication is not just important, but necessary for a healthy relationship. Speaking up may feel risky at times. It requires vulnerability, and there's always the chance that your words might lead to discomfort or disagreement. But real connection, trust, and intimacy are built through these moments of truth. Only through communication can misunderstandings be cleared up, emotional distance be bridged, and conflicts be resolved. So, instead of choosing silence in an